This is Elliot and Jose coming to you from Dreamland Comics in Schaumburg, Illinois, on the Comic Culture Warrior video channel. Lots of raves for some books, unfortunately, for some books that we won't see anymore.
One other thing I want to throw out. Last issue of Marvel Zombies 4 came out, of the miniseries, and it was fucking awesome. So if you haven't been buying this miniseries, it was awesome. And hopefully this will eventually lead to a Midnight Suns series by the same team. Would be nice.
Fred Van Lente.
But it'll probably get canceled after 8 issues because it'll be that good.
And I've been kind of noticing a trend that you have all these writers who are working on the Marvel Adventures books. You know, Fred Van Lente was doing a lot of the Avengers stuff and then goes into the mainstream books. Jeff Parker did a cool Agents of Atlas Avengers
a couple years ago.
That was a giant-size Avengers, but it was a Marvel Adventures book. It was in the kids' line.
Speaking of Jeff Parker in Agents of Atlas, I was ragging on the fact that Wolverine didn't show up in Captain Britain. I was happy with that, but and I guess in order to try to save the book, Agents of Atlas, starting in October, is going to go on a 2-month hiatus, and in its place is going to be a 2-issue miniseries where the Agents of Atlas crossover. It's Agents of Atlas versus X-Men.
X-Men?
Yeah. So, but Jeff Parker is writing it, and the regular artist of Agents of Atlas is drawing it.
Oh, okay.
So it's just like, it's pretty much essentially 2 issues of Agents of Atlas,
but with the X-Men.
But with the X-Men,
starring.
Exactly.
Oh, okay. All
so
right.
it's being replaced by miniseries, but it's the same creative team. But they're calling it that, and I'm sure they're going to try to drive up some sales. And
well, they can drive. I sure hope that drives up the sales. But you notice, we know what happens. You saw that bump in Agents of Atlas sales when the new Avengers guest starred, and then the title dipped again with the following issue. But
Jeff Parker's writing it. It's not like it's a publicity. I mean, it kind of is a stunt. No. I feel like it is, but it's the creative team of Agents of Atlas.
Right.
It's just not going to run in the Agents of Atlas monthly.
And I've got speaking of Jeff Parker, I do have an interview with Steve Lieber, who pairs with Jeff Parker on a new thriller book called Underground. If you check out
Image, right?
Yes.
Yeah, I'm actually looking forward to that.
Check out the Comic Culture Warrior blog. I should have that interview. No, I'm sorry, not Comic Culture Warrior. It will be on the Comics Waiting Room site. Go to Comics Waiting Room and the CWR-TV site, because I did not do the interview. Mark Mason, the editor-in-chief of Comics Waiting Room, did the interview. I just filmed it for him. So, San Diego had, it was kind of like one of those things. The big news, if you can call it that, coming out of there was Marvel Comics securing the rights to Marvel Man.
A.K.A. Miracle Man for us Americans.
Miracle Man. And what was there? Apparently, if you saw my interview with Rich Johnston, he says there was this big bidding war going on for the rights. And no sooner does Rich Johnston talk to me about it that Marvel makes the announcement at San Diego.
Yeah, I guess, I don't know what day you talked to him, but he had a thing up on his Bleeding Cool blog about how he knew about it, but he couldn't say anything because it was Marvel was going to reveal something, but he couldn't say what it was until Marvel released the info themselves.
So I don't know. If that means that we'll finally get to see the Alan Moore and Neil Gaiman stuff reprinted in trade, finally, after God knows how many years, then great. If this just means that Marvel is going to give Marvel Man the Sentry treatment.
Oh, God. Oh, Jesus, that would be fucking awful.
Because
think about that.
Think about it. Who can you have write Marvel Man now? Who within the Marvel stable now of writers could you possibly envision writing Marvel Man? I don't know if Alan Moore will work for Marvel. I have no idea. I kind of doubt it.
Paul Cornell, now that he doesn't have a book?
No, that could be it.
I mean, that'd be cool.
That's a good one, Paul. I could see Paul.
Actually, Paul Cornell is doing a Black Widow miniseries that comes out later this year.
Okay.
That's going to be his next book. But Paul Cornell, I think, would be a good fit.
That's
for
an
that
obvious choice, which means
obvious.
it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
You want to know why? Because we'd want to see it.
Yeah.
If we say Paul Cornell on Marvel Man, the folks at Marvel are going to go, nah.
Paul Cornell, don't they mean Bar-Michael Bendis? Let's put him on that fucking book. And that's how you kill Marvel Man right away.
Pretty much. So, unless you're going to give us that old material again, then I don't see. That's not even.
I know they're going to reprint like the original stuff.
The early
stuff. That for sure is getting reprinted.
Which is it's awesome stuff, mind
Right.
you. That's Alan Moore doing the superhero deconstruction prior to Watchmen. So if you've read Watchmen and you read Miracle Man or Marvel Man, you might not be as impressed as you would have been if you had just read that. I mean, when I first read Miracle Man in high school, I was blown away by it, and that was when Eclipse Comics had it, and you couldn't find those first few issues because, like, a couple 100,000 of them were ruined, being shipped over from overseas, like the hold of the ship got flooded and all these comics were ruined. So the speculators, drove the market up for the first few issues of Marvel Man or Miracle Man, they were calling it.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. It's ironic that you can't call the book Marvel. You couldn't call the book Marvel Man back then because Marvel Comics was suing, and now they have the rights to the character that they once sued. So interesting how circular things are. So.
Well, Marvel's the evil empire, and they get whatever they want. So that's how that happens.
Another surprising thing, Wednesday Comics, despite the price point, and which was the one thing that we complained about the most, doesn't seem to be hurting as far as sales goes.
The sales are pretty decent.
People are buying it.
But here's the thing: it's only gonna last for another 2.5 months because it's only gonna be 16 issues. I guarantee you, man, if that thing lasted, if they try to do it like a year, like all the other stuff, I mean, it's a fad right now. That format in that Wednesday Comics is a fad, and it after 16 issues, I think that's DC actually came up with a good idea that I just have it be 16 issues.
Yeah.
Because then it just would have fallen. It wouldn't even plateau. It just would have fallen in sales. So it just seems like it's the right thing at the right time.
Yeah.
For just the right amount of time.
Hopefully they won't go back into that well again and trying to do something similar to that, again, like they did with 52.
Well, if they do it like once a year, if they do it like an annual thing, but only do it for like 12 or 16 issues at a time, I think you can get people's hold their interest in it for that amount of time. Just don't make it like something that's out there that you can get very rarely because people just really get tired of it.
Right. Well, if anything,
make it like a seasonal thing. Right. Just bring it back and
it has shown this. Fanboys in general, really, you got to quit your bitching, because the comic companies will put something out and charge whatever they feel like, and fanboys will buy it. I know we didn't buy it, and many of you out there who watch the show didn't buy it, but fanboys in general bought it. So it's
but you know what Wednesday Comics is? Wednesday Comics is one of those things that fanboys are buying. I mean, it's not selling gangbusters. It's doing better than everyone anticipated. But at the same time, that's one of those books that are it's held in very high regards to creators in the industry.
Right.
Like creators like at Marvel and in Image, it's something that they like to see. And it's like when Hellboy is one of those. When Mike Mignola first started, Hellboy was one of those comics that fanboys and creators enjoyed. Right. And this is one of those things where a lot of creators, you hear a lot of talk about it, because creators like this format, and it's something different.